So let's begin with what this new European Bauhaus is. When I think about it, I think of 100 years ago, Mariya, what that original Bauhaus was, which was, the design Mies van der Rohe and Lily Hayek and Le Corbusier and others. What about today? It's kind of a sustainable rethink of that.
Absolutely, but if I have to say in one sentence what is the new European Bauhaus for me, I will say that if the new European Green Deal has a soul, that's the new European Bauhaus. That means that we need bridges between the world of science and technology and the world of art and culture. We need to think out of the box. We need to transform the places where we are living, that's our daily life, into sustainable, inclusive, and more beautiful places. And that's why the new European Bauhaus is this movement making the transformation linked to the European Green Deal something tangible and concrete for every one of us. So that means that we need a huge mobilization between these different worlds, the world of innovation, education and culture, architects, students, but at the same time we need to innovate. We need to make the new European Bauhaus affordable and accessible, because that means that we need not to stay only concentrated on urban areas, but we need to think about rural areas and remote areas. So I must say that I'm really very glad, because since the last 1 year, when we launched this initiative, we have seen a huge mobilization. We have more than 400 official partners of the new European Bauhaus. But of course, today we need to promote some specific topics. For me, what is important is really to preserve the participative approach. So that means to keep citizens at the center. And that's why innovation can play a very important role, because innovation is by definition place-based. That means that we need innovation and solutions that are adapted to the local and regional context. And the second one, it will be really definitely the role of education and culture, because without them, we'll not rediscover this feeling of sense of belonging, being part of a community, and that's something that education and culture can definitely strengthen.
And we want to talk about some concrete examples of that, because you had a prize competition in the past year, and very, very interesting different kinds of ideas that were developed that got prizes. Let's talk about that shortly in a little bit later, but first let's talk about, Andrey, about the money side. How do we finance this? You being on the regional development side, you being chair of the EPP Cohesion Monitoring Group, that's cohesion funds, that's about, what I think about a third of the EU budget. That's billions. That can help to fund that, right?
I consider new Bauhaus as a glue, something that is keeping together different sources of financing, and it's like a label. It's like a guarantee that this project is debated and discussed with the local communities, just like Commissioner Gabriel just described. There is a synergy between the local authorities and the citizens. And you know that in few years, when this project is funded by the European Union, nobody will say you actually funded something which is not necessary or didn't do it in a proper way. So we have some very good examples. They're coming from Eastern Europe, but I'm sure it's just the beginning. I can show this. That's a riverbed in Sofia. Okay. This is how it looks like at the moment. Right. And the way it's going to look after Bauhaus and the EU funding is like this. Yeah. A space for social events, for meeting, for gathering, for doing any type of urban activities. So this is how we are transforming our cities, and this is why new Bauhaus is so important, to give that initial push to those processes. The second example, it's even more contrasting to the impact of the Bauhaus. This is how the school in Croatia is looking before the funding, and
this was during the conflict in the 90s, right?
It keeps the scarves of the war. The scars of the war, right? Yes, and this is how it's looked after the European funding and the Bauhaus. So this is how important for us is. So the Bauhaus is the open door to get funding from Horizon, from Erasmus, from ERDF, so plenty of resources.
We can mention also the Construct EU proposal. You want to mention that? Mobilizing 11 billion?
Yes, that's with the renovation waiver. But what I would like just to add, because I would like really to thank Andrey for raising the importance of this issue, because we need to create synergies between the different fundings. On one side we have Horizon Europe, and the excellent example is the 25 million for the 5 lighthouses demonstrators. We would like definitely here to have examples that will inspire others, that will attract investment, and that will be reusable in the different regions. But of course we have the European Regional Development Fund, which is particularly adapted to take into consideration the specificities. That's always I'm saying, the new European Bauhaus, that means all of us as a community to tackle a global challenge by providing local solutions, adapted to the local needs. And that's the strength of this project. But we need to continue to work on this, because remember when we started, there was no budget for the new European Bauhaus, that was zero. And for only the first 1 year, for the period 21-22, the funding is 85 million euros. And actually, yes, the Parliament is helping us to identify this critical mass of funding that we need in order to make this initiative sustainable.
I see that the Regional Development Fund, at least 8% of the resources are for sustainable urban development, as an example, right?
Yes, but that's why they are not dedicated to the new European Bauhaus. What is important is that now we have the new European Bauhaus as horizontal priority in the new partnership agreements with the European Regional Development Fund. That means that we can combine the different sources of money in order to tackle the specific challenges that the different communities or regions are facing.
Okay, I want to come back quickly to that Construct EU, because it's 11.6 billion of cohesion appropriations transferred from 2021 to cover inflation costs. That's very key in making these projects happen, right?
Okay, the thing is, Chris, that we already have some approved projects across Europe. They're funded by the European Union. The contracts are signed with those companies which are going to build the bridge or the road, never mind. But the prices of the raw materials and the construction materials, such as tarmac, concrete, steel,
that's all gone up. Yeah.
Double, triple, they're skyrocketing. So either they are facing the risk not to conclude on time that project, or to do it in a suspicious way, with compromising the construction works with cheaper materials.
Cutting corners.
Yes. So here, I believe that European Union should find a way to mobilize unused, unspent money coming from the cohesion policy to compensate those companies and to finish the project in a proper way.
Proper way, yeah, exactly. Mariya, let me ask you, because today the two of you had this event with MPs, MEPs, regional people. How much did that give you hope that they can work together and make these projects happen for Bauhaus?
Well, what I found with this event, that we are completely aligned. We are not only looking in the same direction, but we are looking for the same solutions. Because on one side, definitely, we need to improve the visibility of this project. We need to make much more efforts in communication.
That's
because
what this is about,
we need
right?
to touch not only the usual suspects, only 5-6 countries or big cities that are very well aware what is this initiative. Of course, we need to think about sustainable funding in order really to engage these people in long term. Of course, we need to think about the label, because how to motivate all these people, organizations, citizens, companies to make this effort in order to implement the 3 principles of the new European Bauhaus: sustainability, inclusion, aesthetics, if they don't receive a recognition, if with this effort they are not recognized as someone who will attract more investment, who will be considered as a partner that you can trust him. So I think that was one really of the main issues. Of course, what we talk about, and I'm really very glad, is that I received a lot of support about the role of education and culture. Because cultural and creative industries and sector, they have an extraordinary potential, really, not only to transform the places where we are living with this emotional and people-to-people contact, they are creating jobs. There is not so much people that are aware that the cultural and creative sectors are creating more jobs than the automotive sector, for example, or the construction sector. We just talk about this.
More than automotive.
So we need to support them. The other thing is with education, and here I'm really very glad, because that was not obvious at the beginning, to mobilize the education community, but now we decided to have an open call by the end of this year in order to bring to us universities, schools, and to work together on the new European Bauhaus, because the 2023 edition of the new European Bauhaus will be entirely dedicated to places of learning, education, not only infrastructure for schools, and that's one of the examples, but we have to talk about digitalization, we have to talk about this particularly delicate balance between new technologies and people-to-people emotional contact, and with education we can find right ways to do it. And with education community, for me, there is one big satisfaction, is that now we have a lot of examples, especially with young people, mobilizing themselves to teach other young people what that means, the new European Bauhaus, what's about the European Green Deal, and how every one of us can contribute to it. And that's one of the winners last year during the European Bauhaus Award. One of the winners, it was Klima Classes, the University of Berlin, Art and Design. And what I liked in this project is that the student-driven training courses, explaining to other students why this is important, creating a network between the different universities of art and design in Europe. And I think that it's not up to us politicians to tell them how important it is. We really need much more initiatives like this one.
And you're talking about recognition, about these prizes that people earn from these projects. I saw the list. It's very impressive, and there's one about homeless housing that you can kind of connect with refugees from Ukraine, right?
Exactly. We today we had as guest one of the members of that high-level working group on Bauhaus. It's an architect coming from Poland, so show us how to redesign already built spaces such as supermarkets and any type of other public facilities. So just re-equip them with kind of a tube constructions to make them fit to accommodate refugees coming from Ukraine.
Where most of them went. They went to Poland, most of them, right? So.
But not only, because we have this very good example in Poland where a building is transformed into school, and we have other examples where, for example, with new materials, but that you have these new materials coming from circular economy, from waste. They are offering privacy, for example, for refugees. For example, that can be papers that can be removed. And actually, we have this in Poland, in Slovakia, in France. So we can see that the new European Bauhaus is not only a message of hope, and we need this message, but that's a common vision that only by working together, only by cooperation, with innovation, and with this sense of belonging to a community, we can achieve better results.
Just a couple more minutes before we wrap up about some of these concrete examples, like for instance, gardens in the air in Spain, buildings renovated in a spirit of circularity. Let's see, the Zero Waste House in Slovenia, the buildings renovated in a spirit of circularity. There are these different categories, I think, that can stir the imagination of people watching this, right?
Yeah, we have these categories, and in every one of the categories we have concrete examples, because one of these categories it's really make the places where we are living more accessible and affordable. So the social housing, we have this sense of belonging to a community. So we have examples like with schools or with municipalities. And I think that one of the most important is to reconnect to nature. That's these gardens on the air. Yeah, so what we can see that there is a lot of motivation, different ideas, but again, for me here there is a challenge. This year I very much hope that we'll have winners coming from every member state and from all our regions, because what we have seen during the first edition of this award is that there is some member states where people are just simply aware of this initiative, they are very active, but there is member states that when the need is huge for this kind of projects, they have ideas, they have even some of them already realized projects that are fully aligned with the new European Bauhaus, but the challenge is really to work more closely with them and to make this initiative much more visible at European level.
Andrey, just one last word. I mean, you were a junior expert in a small town in Bulgaria. How do you connect that with this? You must have seen the potential on a local small town level to do some kind of new Bauhaus.
What I can see from that perspective is that new Bauhaus is not high in the sky, in the cloud somewhere, it's down to the ground, to the earth. It's actually designed to help NGOs, architects, local authorities to reshape their cities. But the thing is, when it comes to Mariya and the new Bauhaus, she is among the most, if I have to use military terms, most decorated commissioner. Well known for her work and recognition for her achievements. But now the ball is in the parliament, and we have to focus on three main things: communication, visibility, awareness. Have to explain what is it, why it's important.
Mobilize.
Exactly. This is what we're doing here.
Yeah.
A lot of local authorities already saw the potential of that program, but I think we can do it much better. And it's up to us in the parliament to be better in communication, to explain what the union is doing and why it's important and accessible for so many cities across Europe.
Well, this is part of it. We hope this helped. Yes, Mariya.
But what I would like just to add, because I would like really to thank Andrey for raising the importance of this issue, because we need to create synergies between the different fundings. On one side we have Horizon Europe, and the excellent example is the 25 million for the 5 lighthouses demonstrators. We would like definitely here to have examples that will inspire others, that will attract investment, and that will be reusable in the different regions. But of course we have the European Regional Development Fund, which is particularly adapted to take into consideration the specificities. That's always I'm saying the new European Bauhaus, that means all of us as a community to tackle a global challenge by providing local solutions adapted to the local needs, and that's the strength of this project. But we need to continue to work on this, because remember when we started there was no budget for the new European Bauhaus, that was zero. And for only the first 1 year, for the period 21-22, the funding is 85 million euros. And actually, yes, the Parliament is helping us to identify this critical mass of funding that we need in order to make this initiative sustainable.
Great. Commissioner Mariya, thank you very much, as well as Andrey Novakov. Thank you very much as well. Keep in mind the hashtag New European Bauhaus. Let's cast this wider. Let's mobilize from the ground up. And it was great to talk to you. My name is Chris Burns. See you next time.